Did you know that over 85% of people struggle with low self-esteem at some point in their lives? Studies show that self-doubt doesn't discriminate. It silently cripples students, professionals, parents, and even the most outwardly successful individuals. I was one of them, living in a constant battle with my inner critic, waking up every day with a voice that whispered, "You're not good enough." From the outside, my life seemed ordinary. I had a job, friends, and family, but the truth was far from what anyone could see. Inside, I felt like I was barely holding on. Every decision felt like a minefield. Should I speak up in that meeting? Should I go to that social event? I often chose silence, and I always chose to stay home. Self-doubt had become my constant companion, a shadow that followed me everywhere, tainting every thought with fear. I remember one particular day vividly, a day that still stings when I think about it. I had worked for weeks on a project at work, pouring in my time, energy, and effort. But when it came time to present it, I froze. My heart raced, my palms were slick with sweat, and my throat felt like it was closing. I stammered through the presentation, barely able to string sentences together. I could see the polite smiles on my colleagues' faces, but I knew they saw the truth. I was falling apart. The meeting ended, and I rushed to the restroom. I locked the door, leaned against the wall, and let the tears come. This wasn't the first time I had broken down, and it wouldn't be the last. I felt trapped, ashamed, and utterly powerless. Why couldn't I just be confident like everyone else? Why was it so hard to believe in myself? Self-doubt had stolen so many moments from me, moments I could never get back. I missed out on opportunities because I believed I wasn't smart enough, skilled enough, or worthy enough. I watched others thrive, taking chances I was too afraid to grasp, and it only deepened the pit I was in. I began to think this was just my life, a life destined to be overshadowed by fear and hesitation. At its worst, self-doubt seeped into my relationships. I constantly worried I wasn't a good enough friend, that I wasn't worthy of love. I second-guessed every word I spoke, afraid I'd say something wrong, or reveal just how broken I felt inside. My confidence was so shattered that even the simplest compliments felt like lies. I couldn't believe anything good about myself, and I lived in the constant fear that one day, everyone else would see the truth I was so sure of, that I wasn't enough. There were nights when the weight of it all became unbearable. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every mistake I'd ever made, every embarrassing moment. I felt paralyzed by fear, suffocated by my own thoughts. Each morning, I'd wake up exhausted, dragging myself through the day with a heavy heart and a forced smile. What hurt the most was knowing that this wasn't who I wanted to be. I wanted to be bold, fearless, and unapologetically myself, but I didn't know how. Every time I tried to change, that voice, the cruel, relentless voice, would remind me of all the ways I'd failed before. I began to believe I would always be stuck. That voice of doubt was loud, persistent, and unrelenting. It told me I'd never be good enough, that I didn't deserve happiness, and I believed it. I lived in that dark place for far too long, convinced there was no way out, that confidence was something other people had, not me. But then, something inside me stirred. It was small at first, just a flicker of hope, but it was enough. Enough to make me wonder if there was more. Enough to make me question whether self-doubt was truly the final word on who I was. I won't tell you how I overcame it here, not yet. But I will tell you this. If you've ever felt trapped by self-doubt, if you've ever cried alone because you didn't feel like you were enough, if you've ever watched others live the life you desperately want, you're not alone. I've been where you are, and I know how heavy it feels. But after everything I've been through, I can promise you this, there is a way out. You can break free. You can find the confidence you've been searching for. The journey isn't easy, and it won't happen overnight, but it's possible. I'm living proof that you don't have to be defined by self-doubt. There is strength inside you waiting to be unleashed. And once you find it, you'll discover a power you never knew you had. Stay with me, because what comes next could change everything. For so long, I believed that confidence was something you were either born with or something you could never have. I thought it was reserved for people who seemed fearless, who walked into a room and commanded attention without even trying. But what I didn't know was that confidence isn't something you stumble upon, it's something you build. And before I could begin to build it, I had to confront the painful truth about where I was. There were moments when the loneliness felt unbearable. I became an expert at masking my pain. I laughed at jokes I didn't find funny, forced smiles when I wanted to disappear, and gave advice to others I couldn't follow myself. On the surface, I appeared functional, maybe even happy. But beneath it all, I was drowning. Every success felt hollow because I was convinced it was a fluke, that any day someone would find out I was a fraud. One of the hardest days came when someone close to me said, "You've got to stop hiding." It hit me like a punch to the stomach, because I knew they were right. I had spent so much time pretending to be okay, pretending to be confident, that I had no idea who I really was anymore. I had buried myself under layers of fear, doubt, and shame. I remember standing in front of the mirror that night, staring into my own eyes, and barely recognizing the person looking back at me. I didn't see someone worthy or strong, I saw someone broken. The voice of doubt was deafening, and it told me to give up, that I was too far gone, that I would always feel this way. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to listen to that voice, how many times I thought it would be easier to just accept my fate. But something kept me going. Maybe it was a tiny spark of defiance, a whisper that said, "No, this isn't who you are." Maybe it was the part of me that still longed for more, even when it felt impossible. Whatever it was, it kept me from giving up entirely. It kept me moving forward, even if that movement was slow, even if it felt like I was barely making progress. I wish I could say the change was instant, but it wasn't. It took time. There were still setbacks, still days when I wanted to hide, still moments when self-doubt crept in and took hold of me. But what I didn't realize then was that every small step, every moment I chose to try again, was a victory. I'm telling you this because I need you to understand how dark it felt, how hopeless it seemed. I need you to know that if you're feeling trapped right now, you're not alone. I was there too, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever faced. But I also need you to know something else. There is light on the other side of this. I didn't believe it at first. I thought I would always feel this way, that self-doubt would always be a part of me. But slowly, things began to shift. And I'm not here to tell you how that happened, not yet, but I am here to tell you that it can happen. There is a way to break free from the chains of self-doubt, to step into your power, to finally feel confident in who you are. I want you to feel the weight of this moment, because it could be the moment everything changes for you. The pain, the fear, the constant questioning, it doesn't have to define you. There is a way to quiet that voice, to find the strength that has been inside you all along, waiting to be unleashed. I'm standing on the other side of something I never thought I'd survive. And if you're still here, reading this, it means you're ready. You may not feel ready, but you are. You have what it takes to break free, to rewrite your story, to become the person you've always known you could be. What comes next is everything I wish someone had told me when I was in that dark place. It's the truth I found through my own struggle, the lessons I learned the hard way. I won't give you the answers here, not yet, but I will tell you this. The path forward is real, and it's waiting for you. Stay with me. The next step could change everything. I remember the day it all nearly broke me. It wasn't a big event, or some catastrophic failure, no, it was something small, something insignificant to anyone else. I was asked to speak in front of a small group, just to share a few thoughts, nothing formal. My mind immediately went blank, my chest tightened, and panic took over. I couldn't breathe. I stumbled over my words, my voice shaking, my palms trembling. I barely made it through, and when I sat down, my whole body was numb. The rest of the group moved on like nothing happened, but inside, I was crumbling. I wanted to disappear. I replayed every word, every stutter, every awkward pause. That inner voice screamed at me, "Why did you even try? You'll never be good enough." And the worst part was, I believed it. I drove home in silence that day, the weight of shame pressing down on me. I couldn't look at myself. The tears came fast, hot, and relentless. I pulled over on the side of the road and just let it out. I cried for every missed opportunity, for every time I let fear win, for every moment I felt trapped in my own mind. It felt like drowning, like I was suffocating under the weight of my own thoughts. I kept asking myself, why can't I be like everyone else? Why is this so hard for me? The world felt heavy, too heavy, and I was exhausted. Exhausted from pretending I was okay. Exhausted from carrying the constant burden of doubt. Exhausted from feeling like I was never enough. The people closest to me didn't know how deep my struggle went. I was good at hiding it. I smiled when I needed to, laughed when it was expected, and kept my pain locked away where no one could see it. But the loneliness of it all was unbearable. I felt like I was screaming in a room full of people, and no one could hear me. I tried to silence the pain in all the wrong ways. I threw myself into work, hoping that if I could just accomplish more, I'd feel worthy. I surrounded myself with people, hoping their approval would fill the emptiness inside me. But nothing worked. No matter what I did, the voice of doubt always came back. There were moments when I felt like I was living two lives, the one everyone else saw and the one I lived inside my head. Outwardly, I looked fine, maybe even successful. But inside, I was falling apart. I couldn't escape the voice that told me I was a failure, that I would never be enough. It was relentless, cruel, and constant. I'll never forget the night I hit my lowest point. It was late, the world outside was quiet, and I sat alone in my room, staring at the walls, feeling the weight of everything I'd been carrying. I felt empty. Numb. Lost. I thought to myself, is this it? Is this all there is? That moment terrified me, because I realized just how far I had sunk. I felt like a shell of the person I wanted to be. All the dreams I once had felt like distant memories, crushed under the weight of fear and self-doubt. I was surviving, but I wasn't living. And yet, in that moment, something small flickered inside me, a spark, barely there, but enough to remind me that I wasn't ready to give up. I didn't know how I would change, or if I even could, but I knew one thing. I couldn't keep living like this. If you're still reading, I want you to know that I understand. I know the sleepless nights, the constant anxiety, the fear of being seen as not enough. I know what it's like to feel trapped, hopeless, and afraid. But I also know something else. You don't have to stay there. The way forward is not easy, and it's not immediate. But it is possible. And if you've ever doubted yourself, if you've ever felt like you'll never measure up, if you've ever been paralyzed by fear, I want you to know that I've been there too. And there is hope. There is light. There is a way to break free from the grip of self-doubt and step into the confidence that has always been waiting for you. Stay with me, because what comes next could be the turning point you've been searching for. You are closer than you think. Keep going. There was no magical moment when everything clicked, no overnight transformation where self-doubt disappeared, but there was a first step. That step wasn't big or grand. It wasn't dramatic. It was small, quiet, and deeply personal. It started with a decision. A decision to stop running from my fear and start facing it, even if I didn't know what that meant yet. The first thing I did was allow myself to be honest about the depth of my pain. I sat down, alone in the stillness, and let myself feel every ounce of the fear, anxiety, and doubt I had been pushing away. It was excruciating, but necessary. I had to acknowledge the grip self-doubt had on me before I could loosen its hold. At first, it felt unbearable. The weight of it pressed down on me, and I kept asking myself how I could ever move forward. But somewhere in that mess of emotion, I realized that acknowledging the problem wasn't the same as being defeated by it. In that space, I found a sliver of clarity. I didn't have to fix everything all at once. I just had to start. I began with a single affirmation, whispered into the quiet when I didn't believe it yet. I am enough as I am. It felt foreign on my tongue, like a lie, but I repeated it anyway. Every morning, every night, I said it to myself, hoping that one day it might feel true. It didn't at first. But it planted a seed. The next step was harder. I had to stop comparing myself to everyone else. Social media, work, friends, all of it felt like a constant reminder of what I wasn't. I took a break from the noise. I unfollowed the people and accounts that made me feel inadequate. I set boundaries with those who drained my energy. For the first time, I gave myself permission to protect my peace. I also sought out support, not in the form of people who would try to fix me, but those who would simply listen. I told someone close to me about my struggles with confidence, and for the first time, I felt seen. They didn't have the answers, but they gave me something far more valuable, understanding. Knowing I wasn't alone gave me the courage to keep going. The first thing I did was allow myself to be honest about the depth of my pain. I sat down, alone in the stillness, and let myself feel every ounce of the fear, anxiety, and doubt I had been pushing away. It was excruciating, but necessary. I had to acknowledge the grip self-doubt had on me before I could loosen its hold. At first, it felt unbearable. The weight of it pressed down on me, and I kept asking myself how I could ever move forward. But somewhere in that mess of emotion, I realized that acknowledging the problem wasn't the same as being defeated by it. In that space, I found a sliver of clarity. I didn't have to fix everything all at once. I just had to start. I began with a single affirmation, whispered into the quiet when I didn't believe it yet. I am enough as I am. It felt foreign on my tongue, like a lie, but I repeated it anyway. Every morning, every night, I said it to myself, hoping that one day it might feel true. It didn't at first. But it planted a seed. The next step was harder. I had to stop comparing myself to everyone else. Social media, work, friends, all of it felt like a constant reminder of what I wasn't. I took a break from the noise. I unfollowed the people and accounts that made me feel inadequate. I set boundaries with those who drained my energy. For the first time, I gave myself permission to protect my peace. I also sought out support, not in the form of people who would try to fix me, but those who would simply listen. I told someone close to me about my struggles with confidence, and for the first time, I felt seen. They didn't have the answers, but they gave me something far more valuable, understanding. Knowing I wasn't alone gave me the courage to keep going. Slowly, I started taking small risks that challenged my belief that I wasn't good enough. I signed up for a class I'd always wanted to try, but had been too afraid to. I spoke up in a meeting at work, even though my voice trembled. One of the hardest lessons I learned was that confidence isn't about perfection. It's not about never being afraid. It's about showing up anyway. It's about accepting that fear will always be there, but it doesn't have to control you. I learned to lean into the discomfort, to let myself be seen even when it felt vulnerable, and to recognize that my worth was never tied to what I could or couldn't do perfectly. As time went on, something remarkable happened. The voice of doubt didn't disappear, but it grew quieter. It no longer drowned out everything else. And in its place, another voice emerged, a voice that reminded me of my strength, my resilience, and my worth. It wasn't until I stumbled upon Unleash Your Confidence, Break Free from Self-Doubt, and Step into Your Power that everything truly began to shift. The book became a lifeline, a guide that spoke directly to the heart of my struggle. It gave me practical steps to build confidence, not in some abstract way, but in a way that felt real and achievable. Each chapter felt like a conversation with someone who had walked the same path and knew the way out. What I found in those pages transformed me. It taught me how to quiet the inner critic, how to embrace my authentic self, and how to take bold steps toward the life I wanted. If you're ready to break free from the grip of self-doubt and finally step into your power, this book holds the answers you've been searching for. You can find a digital copy at libraifi.com. The link is in the description. Don't wait any longer. Your journey to confidence starts now.